What's up, everybody? A new Call of Duty game, of course, means a new Warzone integration, which means all new weapons and a huge meta shift. We talked about the perk meta and the long-range meta already, and I'll link those down below. Today, we're talking about the close-range meta, but before I get into that, my Twitch is linked down below if you want to come hang out while I play Warzone or Apex or RedSec or a multitude of different new multiplayer games, single-player games, whatever. Twitch is linked down below, as well as all my social medias, including my Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, single-player channel, and car, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube channel if any of those interest you. I do, of course, appreciate the support here, there, or anywhere. And then after we look at loadouts, we'll go over to true game data, which I'll also link down below for people that want to look at things a little more statistically. But let's go ahead and jump into these close-range loadouts. Okay, and starting off here, if you're a shotgun player, there is only really one shotgun to use. Now, between true game data and CODMmunity, there's not really a lot of shotgun TTK information out there. But the Akita is an auto shotgun with a good fire rate and okay range. I have this built for hipfire. So I have the Fang modified choke for the tighter hipfire spread. If you are more of an ADS shotgun player, go with the Akita full bore 12 to get closer ADS pellet spread. Then it's a suppressor, first shot recoil, and kick reset speed, and vertical recoil control. You don't really need that. And then monolithic suppressor on the shotgun feels like a waste to me. So then we go barrel. I have the Retriever Hunt barrel for the damage range. There's also the Security Cypher barrel for bullet velocity and pellet spread. If you're going to ADS all the time with the shotgun, maybe this is better, although I still think you really need to push out shotgun's damage ranges. The Splice Mix is kind of useless. We're not worried about bullet velocity on an ultra close range weapon. And then you only get a little bit of damage range. The Light Pad Strike barrel gives you more ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, but doesn't really help you too much. And the Phobos Heavy Barrel gives you more headshot multiplier. It's a shotgun. We're not worried about that. Retriever Barrel it is for the damage range. No underbarrel. Then we go, for the magazine, we're going with the Bulk Feed Extended 2 to get you up to 16 rounds. We're not super worried about aim down sight speed because of them building it more for hip fire. Sprint to fire speed matters a little bit more, but it's still got good sprint to fire speed. You could drop 2 shotgun shells and get no penalties, but I'm going with the 2 extra shells. Then we have the mobile security stock for hipfire movement, because once again, this is a hipfire build, overall movement speed and strafing movement speed. With the weekly challenge that came out today, you can get the akimbo, but the akimbo is being reported as not good in Warzone. You get a lot of ammo. All of your ammo goes into your belt fed mags, and it's akimbo, but you can't ADS. Your hipfire spread actually gets spread out, and you can only hipfire. Your damage goes down. It overheats quickly. Stick with the mobility security stock here. Venomous stock, don't ADS walk with a shotgun. We're not tax stancing here, so we don't need the vagabond stock. And illicit motion stock, aim, walking, move speed, flinch resistance, not really that too useful here. And I haven't prestiged sprint speed, aim, walk speed, sprint to fire speed, aim down sight speed with this stock, but worse hip fire spread, worse ADS spread. You don't want that either. And then the last attachment I have is the Scatterline laser to tighten up that hip fire spread more. There's no laser that helps ADS spread. Hip fire ADS accuracies may be all right, but there's nothing that helps with the ADS spread. So this is a hip fire build, and even if it wasn't, we would ignore optic. Underbarrel, you could consider the Strider hand stop because it gives you movement speed and hip fire move speed. But out of our stock, we get hipfire move speed, movement speed, and strafing move speed. And out of our laser, we get hipfire spread helped. So I don't really want to take away either one of those. Rear grip, aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, recoil, dive, slide, aim down, and jump aim down sight speed. And then recoil, rear grip. So there's not other things I want to use. Dragon's Breath hurts your minimum damage range. I don't know if the fire is really worth it. I only get a slug gives you one shot headshot, but if people have survivor, you lose that. You get more fire rate with the enhanced cycle system, but you lose out on damage range, which is bad with a shotgun. It's an interesting thing to use if you're really going to be barrel stuffing, but I don't think it's worth it. It's got a good enough fire rate to me. And that is the Akita. So moving on to SMGs, the more normal close range. First, we have the CODWZ 7, whatever is the new SMG from the Battle Pass. And so, no optic. For the muzzle, I have the SWF Tashina. It keeps you off the fire, it keeps you off the minimap, and it gives you recoil stabilization, so it's a little less shaky. If you're struggling with the recoil, you can go Hawker Series 45, the compensator, to get the more vertical recoil. But I don't think there's anything else really worth using. Maybe go monolithic. I didn't want to hurt the ADS in that super close range, and I like the recoil stabilization to make it less shaky. For the barrel, we have this 11.7-inch Cinerus barrel. It helps with that recoil stabilization, again, to make it less shaky, and gives you aim down sight speed. So you get essentially a more accurate barrel and better ADS speed. There is the Canis 05 barrel to help more damage range, which is an option, of course. I don't think the Solero barrel is worth it because I'm not too worried about SMG bullet velocity. You have the Targal Hawk X barrel, which helps aim down sight, sprint to fire speed. It's an interesting one, especially if you hip fire a lot too, because it's got the hip fire movement speed and the hip fire spread. And then you have the mid-range barrel. I just think the recoil stabilization and the aim down sight speed from a barrel is great. Now, there's not a lot of recoil in this gun, especially if you just stabilize it so it's less shaky with those first two attachments. Go with the EAM Steady Grip. It gives you horizontal recoil control, but it also gives you sprint move speed and move speed. If you're struggling with the recoil, you can go with the Drift Lock foregrip. But I think that getting the horizontal recoil control, sprint move speed, and movement speed is good. The EAM Light Path foregrip gives you movement speed, hip fire move speed, and aim walking move speed, but you don't get any recoil control like you do with the EAM Steady 90 grip. Then, of course, we have the largest mag. It gives you 50 rounds. It hurts ADS, reload quickness, and sprint to fire. You can go down to 40, although I wouldn't for trios and quads, maybe solos and duos, and you don't get any penalties. And then I opt for a stock here because the foul stock gives you movement speed, strafe movement speed, and hip fire move speed. You can prestige for akimbo, but it's not worth it. For the other, if you're struggling with recoil, EMT3 Radix stock is another option as well. But I don't think there's any other stocks that are really worth using. Maybe the Malay 64 stock gives you that recoil stabilization plus horizontal recoil control. Flinch resistance doesn't really matter too much. There's not really a rear grip worth using because you can't get a movement rear grip, and SMGs, especially putting this barrel on, give you good ADS speed, and the sprint to fire speed's fine. Lasers, there's nothing I would really use over anything that I have now. I think that this is the best build, and it's kind of the build for the SMGs, except for the Razor 9. The Razor 9's got the most recoil on this list. It's not really horizontal, but it's got a lot of vertical recoil. It will pull up on you quickly. So instead of being able to go with the Bowen 9mm suppressor, I go with the H 9mm precision compensator to help with that vertical recoil. There's nothing else that I would really recommend. If you want, you could go with monolithic suppressor, push the damage range out, but you lose a lot of ADS speed. I would go with the Bowen 9mm suppressor if you're trying to stay off the map, so at least get recoil stabilization, but I'm taking the vertical recoil control on the precision comp. Other than that, the barrels are mostly the same. This one does not have the recoil stabilization barrel, unless you prestige it, which I haven't. Maybe I will, but you lose aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed to get that recoil stabilization, but it does help with recoil a lot. Maybe it's an attachment worth unlocking, but for now, if you don't want to prestige your weapon, just go RL Genesis barrel for the damage range. Then for underbarrel, because this thing does have a lot of recoil, I go with the lateral precision grip. Now, it is more vertical than horizontal, so you can go down to the EAM Steady 90 grip, but this thing just has more recoil than everything on the list, so I just wanted the most recoil control possible. Then once again, extended mag 2. This time it's the Zealot extended mag 2. You get 50 rounds. Now, this one actually hurts your movement speed, which is a little odd, but it does, and it's 40 rounds versus 50 rounds, so if you're willing to take the ADS, sprint to fire, reload quickness, and movement speed penalties, take the 10 extra rounds, especially if you play trios or quads. Then finally, for stock, I went with the Serpent Pad to get movement speed, help counteract that mag a little bit, hip fire move speed, and strafing move speed. If you're still struggling with the recoil, the RWL Stability Pad is a good option. It hurts your ADS a little bit, but it is a good option. As is the Renegade Pad, hurts your ADS a little bit, gives you recoil stabilization, horizontal and vertical recoil control. But I don't think it needed it past. I don't think I needed anything past the other attachments, the muzzle and the barrel. So I go with the stock that gives me hip fire, move speed, and move speed. And then finally, SMG1 is the MPC 25. Now, it's got the second best TTK of the SMGs on this list. the Razor 9mm being number 1, the CODWZ being number 3. But this kind of combines the best of both. It's got a good TTK while not having a lot of recoil. So once again, we have the first muzzle on here to give you that recoil stabilization. If you want less recoil, go with the K&S compensator. But I'm going with the K&S Stalker 57X muzzle. Barrel here, we do have a recoil stabilization aim down sight barrel, so that's the one I went to. If you want, you can go damage range and go with the VS Ash barrel. The mid damage range barrel, maybe for like a sniper support, you go with it. With the them in general, the MFS Stratus X barrel gives you horizontal recoil and vertical recoil control and recoil stabilization. Prestige attachment, if you don't want a prestige, definitely go with the Razorback barrel. Then we have the Flow Guard foregrip, which is the same as the equivalent of that EAS foregrip. Gives you horizontal recoil control, sprinting move speed, and move speed. Struggling with recoil, of course, VAS Drift Lock foregrip. And then once again, the biggest mag. This one hurts movement speed, reload quickness, aim down sight, sprint to fire, but you get 50 rounds as opposed to 40. So if you're playing trios and quads, it's worth the 10 extra rounds. If you're playing solos and duos, probably not. Stick with the 40. And then once again, we go with the mobility stock, Viper wire stock, hipfire movement speed, and strafing move speed. Struggling with recoil, Medusa stock, Arid full stock, but I don't think you will. So I go with the Viper wire stock. And that is my loadout for the MPC 25, which is my number 1 close range option. Once again, going with shotguns, go with the Akita. The third best SMG, I think, is the CODWZ, whatever it is. Then the Razor 9mm, which does have the fastest TTK, so if you're fine with dealing with the extra recoil, I would go with the Razor 9mm. But if you want the in-between where it's got a really good TTK, but also like no recoil, MPC 25, and that is the number 1 in my mind. If you were just here for the loadouts, thank you so much for watching. The rest of us are going to go over to True Game Data. All right, so we're over in True Game Data. Like I said, there is not really any shotgun data currently on this or COD Munities weapon comparison, so we just left the shotguns off. You just have to take my word for it. But I have the 3 SMGs built out how I had them, like I was just showing you. So we come down here, go TTK chart. We're going to go combination. We're going to shorten this to 20 meters. And when you look at the combination, the CODWZ is right behind the MPC, but the CODWZ falls off the soonest. The Razor 9mm does have the fastest TTK, but like I said, has the most recoil. So you get the MPC 25 right in between, plus the longest damage range here. And it has a good competitive TTK, and if you're hitting your shots over the Razor, you're going to do better overall. You include ADS time, everything becomes about even. So once again, the MPC 25, low recoil, pushes out the farthest damage range, so it's better than the Razor or the CODWZ when you consider ADS time. When you go sprint to fire, now the MPC 25 becomes the best here. You can, of course, adjust for sprint to fire by how you play. You know, be ready to slow down as you're entering the fight. You can counteract that, but overall, I do think the MPC 25 is the best. When you look at ADS time, it's the second best to the CODWZ, but barely. Bullet velocity, I'm not worried about an SMG. Crouch speed, if that's accurate, that's by far the best. Fire rate is the slowest, but it's also where I'm the most comfortable in the like 700 to 900 round. Once you start getting over that, I think it's a little bit too much. Move speed, it is the best move speed by a decent amount. It's the fastest reload time. I guess that's in milliseconds, maybe. Sprint speed, it's second best. It's not super close, but it's not super far off. Sprint to fire, it's the best sprint to fire, like we saw. So it's got overall like the best movement. It's got the second best TTK in general. It's the best when you consider ADS or sprint to fire time. But that's my short range meta. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like Warzone meta content, Apex meta content, game reviews. That's generally what we post over here. And check out all the links down in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on Verdansk and Haven's Hollow. Get frying. Have a good day. Bye.